Okay, we're live. So we're live with the episode 83 of Nansen Office Hours. Today with me, after what feels like quite a while, I've got Barto back, and I've also got Jason, who's the product manager for Nansen Query. So we're going to have a look at what Query actually is, and hopefully he'll be able to supplement Barto in his exploration of the Nansen dashboards. So we'll look at DeFi stuff and how to follow whales, anything interesting that's been going on, which is quite a lot. So GM, thank you for joining us. Put your GMs in the chat and I'll have a look in a second. Before we start, if you're new to Office Hours, every Wednesday we do a Nansen and Chill session, look at new features, answer any questions from you guys, alpha leaks, and anything else interesting that's going on. Make sure that you subscribe, turn your notifications on so you don't miss anything. If you want to try Nansen for free, we have a Nansen Lite sign up below. And if you want to trial Nansen Standard for 1 week, it's only $9. So you can also use the link below for that, and then you can kind of follow on with what we get up to. So because this is a Nansen Query focused kind of episode, Jason, do you want to give a quick explanation of what actually is Nansen Query and why people would use it, and why it's interesting?
Sure, sounds good. So Nansen Query is our unique and proprietary database of blockchain activities that gives you a broad overview as well as detailed drill down of all the blockchain activities happening in the world. And it's partially powered by our 130 million plus label wallets. And you might use Nansen Query because it easily connects with all of your in-house data. So whether or not you're using BigQuery or Jupyter Notebook or Colab, it easily connects to all the data. So it's very easy to get started and it's very easy to do powerful analysis. So that's the product we're trying to build to let all the power users like Alberto here be able to conduct their real insightful analysis.
Yeah, so Barto is one of the biggest users, that we see on Twitter, especially, of Nansen Query. So Barto, how do you use it? And then I think you're going to show us some kind of interesting stuff that's been going on.
Well, first off, it's an honor to be here with the Nansen Intern, who, since I've been on, is the only thing happening in crypto. It's like it's just him and then everything else. I'd also be remiss. We're sporting the original wifey white on blue 2020. Excuse me. So the shirt is now priceless because they've changed their logo. So
I like the old logo better, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I know. Actually, Bantag started to follow me, so I can only say positive things about
Yeah.
So essentially, everything Jason said. So a lot of times I'll be on Nansen and I'll see different things and I want to dive very deep into it or see, what's going on in the background or really apply some data science to it. So I think one of the biggest gaps now in crypto is that people just sort of do SQL queries. They put these dashboards together and they're very nice, but it really opens up the lens of segmentation, predictive modeling, machine learning. How can you then take data off the blockchain and do very sophisticated analysis? So by being able to pull in gigs and gigs of data, whether it be through BigQuery UI, Python notebooks, just downloading CSVs, is a really great way to just very deeply dive into things. And so the combination between just general exploring and then seeing, okay, diving very deep into it is a beautiful thing. And so we can kind of go through a couple of these examples. Yeah, so let's do it. Let's
add your screen.
Can you see my screen?
We can now, yeah. If you full screen it.
Oh, full screen. Oh wow.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, excellent. So a couple days ago, actually, I want to shout out to Paul because he originally tweeted something around the lines of just NFT data in general. And he was showing something very interesting where the number of new addresses was essentially was pretty flat.
if you refresh that, I don't know why. Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah. I think my computer in the background is telling me to stop doing so many things. But essentially, he tweeted this interesting chart here where you can see like first-time buyers versus returning buyers. So this is just looking at like all NFT markets in general, and you can see it's pretty flat, which is in terms of like first-time buyers, which is interesting. So I wanted to see like how this compared to DeFi. And so the beauty of Nansen Query, there's two tables that are pretty interesting. One is like all the DEX trades. So you can just see, okay, who made a DEX trade and when, where, what exchange, how much was it for? And then you can overlay NFT trades. And so by combining these two together, you can essentially make this beautiful plot of like how many first-time buyers of NFTs there are versus, you know, how many first-time DEX traders there are. So it's kind of funny because it took me like literally a minute and a half to run. It's just like a simple group buy and union, and then just seeing like, okay, you know, of the new addresses that come into crypto, what does it look like? And then I didn't really think of anything of it. And then, you know, 20 minutes later, people that I follow were tweeting my own tweet, like, this is crazy. Wow. I was like, oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. So it's really just like a very good way to just further get like the very full understanding of what's going on and to really like dive deep into, okay, you know, what percentage of crypto is NFTs? You know, how much money are people spending on NFTs versus other things? And so you get a really good idea of, you know, what is the lay of the land in crypto and like what is truly going on. And then you can also like, I think one of the things that we talk about a lot is like NFT-Fi. So there's this new, relatively new protocol called NFT-Fi, which like allows you to do lending against your NFTs. Something that people have been sort of like it's like the missing link in crypto, because let's say you bought this Bored Ape for an ETH and then now it's 100 ETH. You still haven't realized any profits. There's no staking or anything like that. So you may want to like use some sort of like lending to actually like get money for this Bored Ape. So one of the like analysis that I'm working on now is like, okay, you can see like this NFT-Fi direct loan. So this is the actual contract itself. This is what people deposit into. But you can kind of see there's only like 59 out of 10,000 Bored Apes in this contract. And while it's been attracting a good amount of apes, you kind of wonder like, well, why isn't it getting better traction? And do like people know about this? And so the beauty is then you could say, okay, well, I'm going to take all the addresses that are depositing into this contract via Nansen Query and then see like, okay, well, what other coins do they own? How many DEX trades do they make? Are they swapping on Curve? Were they a wifey farmer? To kind of get this idea of like, you have different segments within this. You probably like these people depositing into are probably like also DeFi degenerates. And you can see it's like such a small percent of like the actual crypto, right? You have 59 out of 10,000. It's probably like people probably own two, you know, it's not like just one person, one ape. So it's like, it's many different things. Like one, you can kind of see like, okay, you could probably figure out who's depositing in and follow those people because they have like a really big DeFi NFT overlap. From the NFT side, if you're NFT-Fi, you can then use the data to say, okay, you know, how can I better market this? So like, how can I better attract people to deposit their apes into? Maybe it's some sort of, you know, better explanation. Maybe it's just like a UI thing. Because, you know, if you just come into the space and you're just buying JPEGs, you're not like familiar with uncollateralized lending. So there's a lot of different things to think about when you really like dive deeper into the data and really see everything.
I thought like one weird coincidence this morning, and there's no correlation, I would assume, but I was looking at the entity billboard and it reminded me, just because you said it earlier, in terms of like DEX traders versus like NFT traders, what you used Query for. And like from memory, I think like the 30-day users, so if you go to the time frame at the top left and change it to, you see the button in the top left, just under entity billboard. the title.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Uniswap and OpenSea, some reason, have like almost identical users, and also on the same amount, like the weekly as well. Like there's no correlation, but I thought it was kind of weird. And it's just really interesting to see like how many people are actually using it. Like Uniswap is so dominant when you like compare. If you look at what's it called, 1inch. Uniswap, the users are way lower. I've sidetracked you a bit, but I just thought it was a weird coincidence this morning and kind of related.
No, I like it because you could then say like, okay, of the people that made a Uniswap transaction, like in the last 30 days, like what's the distribution of their first trade or like their first action? And I would be willing to bet a lot of money that like most of these people here are like 2020 users, maybe like beginning of 2021, versus like OpenSea, which is probably like, well, one, it wasn't even popular until 2021. So yeah, I'd imagine that like a ton of these people are 2020 people, class of 2020, and then this is like class of 2021. So the thing I've been yet to do yet is like, okay, well, what about the class of 2022? You know, you could then just say, okay, give me all the wallets that started in 2022. You know, what tokens do they own? Like what are they using? You could even like add a filter here, like just give me addresses that started in 2022 to see like how does this compare.
I really like that. Yeah,
product alpha right there. Yeah, so it's really like however deep you want to go. And I think like Alex and I've talked about this before, like the address becomes sort of like the carbon unit of someone. Like that's their identity on chain. Like you can really just see like, okay, what are these people doing? What are they interacting with? What's their overlap between different things? And really dive deep. Do you
Jason,
want to talk?
Jason, did you have something there? I know you're trying to say.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that, you know, just this type of analysis I think is the type of analysis we want to enable our users to do, which is to say, look, you know, a user is not a user, right? You got to think of a user as like whether a DeFi or NFT user, and what does that mean if you have a collection that's launching and they're all bought by, NFT degens, or a collection that's bought mostly by first-time users, right? That could potentially is a differentiated signal that actually means something different for whether or not the collection turned over or whether it's not being used in a NFT-Fi for lending and borrowing.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we want to look at? I don't know if this is skipping forward, but yeah, are you about to look at the Bored Ape?
Yeah, let's do it. This is a good one. So yeah, I was going to talk about NFT-Fi, so we did that. Check off the box. You found something interesting the other day about KuCoin and Bored Ape. Do you want to talk about it?
I can intro it. Yeah, so I use KuCoin a lot, which maybe is to everyone's surprise or something. When I say that, everyone's like, I've never used KuCoin, but for some reason I used it. I used to find a lot of low caps on there. They've had a lot of fun recently, which I kind of feel sad about, but it is what it is. So I went on there yesterday, and I saw that they have like a tokenization of a Bored Ape. So I think they have two. So you can buy a what's the word, Alberto? It's gone out of my head.
Fractionalized.
Yeah, fractionalized version of a Bored Ape on KuCoin, which sounds quite cool. At least sounds innovative. So yeah, I sent it to Alberto because I know that we were going to talk about NFT-Fi, and I know that you've had a look at it on chain to kind of see what they've done with it. Well, with two of them, not only one. Yeah,
so it was pretty interesting because you could actually approach this from two different ways. So I don't use this feature as much. I should be using it more. But they had an ad, I think, like in their email that said like, I think it was like 569, 56.99 maybe, or I forget what the ID was.
I'll find it.
Yeah. But they sent this email out and it said like, hey, we have two 2 Bored Apes that were looking to fractionalize. And they had like a price of, I think it was like 100 ETH that they advertised it for. And like each, you could buy like, 1 ETH of it or something like that. They had this slightly confusing conversion.
It's 5066. Well, there's 2 of them.
5066. Okay. So in the email, they listed 2 of them. And so what's very funny is you can just put the ID in. So if you just go to NFT item profiler, Bored Ape Yacht Club, 5066. So you can kind of just see this play out on chain, what happened. So right here, about 27 days ago, you have this transaction. Franklin is bored. And if you look at the transaction on Etherscan, this person is just labeled as NFT collector. And I guess my internet doesn't want to load, but you can kind of see like, okay, then NFT collector just sends it again randomly. And then NFT collector sends it to this contract called Fractionalised. So what's funny is like, this is Bored Franklin, and then this is the person I sent it to. You can kind of see something really funny where 27 days ago, this address got 214 ETH from OX5AD. And so if you just click on OX5AD, like, okay, it makes sense. KuCoin sends ETH here. This is like them sending the ETH to buy the Bored Ape. What I find interesting about this transaction is like, typically, if you're sending from an exchange, you would see the ETH come straight from an exchange account. I don't know if KuCoin is different, but like if you see like someone depositing off of FTX, it'll just be like from FTX to the account they're transferring it to. So if I had like elbarto.eth, you'd see like KuCoin 10 to elbarto.eth. But in this situation, it sends to this address first, and then OX5AD sends to 783. I don't know why. It's kind of interesting. Maybe it's like some internal thing, but
I don't know why they do that either, to be honest. It's kind of interesting they did 1 ETH as their test transaction.
Yeah. It's an expensive test transaction, not gonna lie. Like,
well,
yeah, it's KuCoin. So then you can clearly see that they buy it, and you can see like what the price they paid for it. If you just click on this trend, I think this will show it to you as well. So yeah, they paid 99 ETH. And then they sent the Bored Ape to this contract. Actually, they sent it again. So they just shuffling things around, making it hard for us. Come to this contract called Fractionalised. And what's really funny is like, if you read through, you just like, I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but there's a function call here, swap mini NFT to FFT. And so like, you can kind of get a sense of like, okay, yeah, they're taking the, I don't know, the mechanics of like the Solidity contract, but like there's something to do here with like making it a small NFT. And this was like weeks before they announced it. My theory is that they're going to just use the same contract probably to fractionalize other NFTs. So I'd probably set a smart alert for this contract. And I think actually, because I sleep, I missed this. It kind of looks like people are depositing into this contract. Oh yeah, this is cool. So it seems like people are using this contract to get like a fractionalized ape.
Yeah, that's the token they list on KuCoin that you can then buy. I have to say, like, I don't really understand how this fractionalization of NFTs actually works. Do you get it? Because like, if the price goes up but you don't sell, you can still profit from it. It's over my head, I have to say.
Yes. Same. But what is interesting, and this is why you use data, is because the original offering price was 99 ETH, I believe, for the fractionalization. Well, two things. One, it makes no sense to pay 99 ETH because actually, you guys, that's interesting. You guys estimate this as 100 ETH. So like what you could do is like if you see these fractionalizations, like you could just plug this item in and see like what is the estimated price for this ape in Nansen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, are you getting a good deal on it? Essentially.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I say that is because like the floor price for Bored Apes, I believe is it's 86 ETH now.
Yep.
So they bought it like around here or something like that. And it's like down like 20%.
Yeah.
So like use data is like what I'm trying to say. Like if you get like it's cool to own a fractional ape, but like you do want to see like, okay, well, what is that ape compared to other apes? Like what does Nansen think the price is worth? So like, okay, if it's 100 ETH here, like that's a pretty good deal. I'm not familiar with Bored Ape pricing, but maybe this is like a slightly more rare ape.
Yeah, I just don't really understand it, to be honest, because if they bought it at 100, I'm guessing like the token that you're buying into isn't like its value at 100. It's probably at the value at whatever it got listed on KuCoin, so 86 or whatever it was. I don't get it. If anyone knows about it, put it in the chat. It's something I need to research. I think we just haven't seen much about it. I remember like last year, right? Cryptopathic, yeah, Path put some. It was that fractionalized Doge picture, which I never bought, but that had a lot of hype at the time. Again, I don't understand it. It might become a big thing though, but with like everything going down, I don't know how useful it is at the moment. But yeah.
Yeah.
To answer Journey's question, I don't know if KuCoin charges a fee on the fractionalized NFT stuff. I would assume that like, yeah, like each trade would be a fee. Yeah. Because otherwise, how are they making money? Yeah.
Jason, do you know how it works? Are you going to answer it?
I actually don't know how it works, but I was going to mention that one of the benefits you get from NFTs is the access benefits, and I would imagine the fractionalized should trade at a discount to the whole NFT, because as a fractional holder, you may not have access to the full right of the NFT, right? So this is just if we apply like classical like corporate finance theories to this, it should trade at a discount.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. I wonder if they like randomly like it'd be fun if like let's say there was Ape Fest, like if you could just be entered into a raffle with the other fractionalized holders.
Oh, that's really cool as well. I like that.
Just there you go, Yuga Labs. Take my idea.
I don't think listening.
But like coming back to Query, so okay, so this is actually, I just thought of this. So let's say you know the people that are buying the fractionalized NFT. Like you can then you can do the like segmentation, because like if you think about Yuga Labs from like a brand, it's almost like Ferrari, where you have like the people who can buy a Bored Ape. That's like it's not me, first off. Just put it out there. But like you have these like very limited people that can buy it. But then you have like further down like the pyramid, you have like, okay, now people can buy mutant apes, or people can buy fractionalized apes. And then people can even own ape coin. So if you're Yuga Labs, you kind of have this like marketing or like engagement strategy where like you have to think about how to engage each people like within each of those buckets. Well, how do you do that? Like you go on chain, you go and query Ethereum to see like, okay, well, who owns like ApeCoin? What's the overlap between like ApeCoin and Bored Ape holders, ApeCoin and Mutant Ape? Are fractionalized apes the first thing people are getting into? Like, is that a new audience? Like, there's a lot of analysis that you could do in terms of like putting on future events, sponsoring things. Like, who is your audience? What are they doing? A lot of research projects there.
Yeah, and I think definitely the reach part is the most interesting part, right? Which is just reaching out to people who otherwise would never be in contact with your brand or your collection, and having them hear about you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, like a lot of interesting things. So actually, we're going to talk about fractionalized NFTs because, like, yeah, we were actually going to talk about it in a different way, and then you sent that great find. Like, we talk a lot about, like, oh yeah, the blue chip NFTs, but like the reality is, like, a lot, like, people can't. There's only a certain amount of people that can afford them. But like, one of the things that I do, and I did this the other day. So like with doodles, if you go on to NFT, so NFTX, I actually hold the token in full transparency. So what they offer is like fractionalized NFT buying. So people deposit their NFT into a vault, and then it essentially gets cut up the same way that like the fractionalized NFT for KuCoin, but you can trade it over Uniswap. You can trade it over all these different places. So I think they just don't do a good job marketing, because like you can buy, $500 of Doodle coin, which would be, the same amount as, and it tracks the price of Doodles pretty closely. And the way that you can find this out is like, one, you can just go to NFTX. I think of like NFTX. And you can just see like, okay, what coins do they have? So you can see here, like, okay, Punk, there's like $14 million locked. Milady, Chrome Swinkles, Doodles. You could just go here, but you can also, like, if you wanted to gain sort of like backdoor exposure to NFTs without like buying the entire one, a lot of times, if you just look at top balances, what will happen is certain DAOs, or like here you have NFT-Fi again. Like if you just search for like NFTX, DAO, like, or like Treasury, there will be like tokenized like things that you can buy that also hold doodles. So I'm kind of surprised why NFTX doesn't come up here. But like with punks, you can see something interesting where NFTX Treasury actually owns is like one of the largest holders of the punk coin itself. So if you didn't want to buy like a punk, you could either buy like a tokenized punk, or you could just buy like something that also holds a lot of punks with the theory that like if punks double, like your value should rise with that. And actually, punk floor not looking good right now. Yeah. So here you can see like, okay, yeah. So here, like NFTX, this vault that we just saw there holds 139. And I believe, we clear this.
This is like, just because you're talking about punks, it's not like something to do with query, but I thought it's the same vein of like market research and understanding your holders. I had a look the other day at Fidenzas, and then we have this related collection tab on the far right. And if you go on there, we don't have to go on there right now, but for punks, gives you an example. If you went on Fidenzas, I think it was like 33% or 32% of Fidenza owners also own a punk. It was their like largest related collection.
Oh yeah, here you go.
Oh yeah, I'm right. Yeah. So I thought it was quite an interesting take in terms of who is buying Fidenzas, and then maybe what is their take on punks. Like I know someone from like the Penguin community who owns a Fidenza and a punk, and they own it, both of them, for the same reason, like the art rather than necessarily like the social element or the PFP part. So they've bought them as long-term holds, basically to put them in a vault and like come back to in like 5 years, because they feel like they have historical significance or art significance, if that makes sense. And I think it just I saw it as interesting because it like stands out punks as different to Bored Apes, for instance. They're both PFPs. They're both like similar price range, but the demographic like buying them might be slightly different. So people buying punks like the art of it, they like the historical value, and then maybe people buying Bored Apes, they want that like social element more. They want to have like a strong PFP. So it's a different types of buyers, and it's quite amazing how you can see that just from data. So if you're like the lead of Yuga Labs or whatever, you can then understand what your holders want, and that works for like every collection. So you mentioned earlier you could like host events. Do punks want events that are more like art focused or whatever compared to like Bored Apes, which we saw in New York? They're like very social focused. They want all the music and everything like that. Yeah, a bit sidetracked, but I thought it was a interesting point to like make while we're looking at punks.
This is just a pitch to consult for Yuga Labs. So this isn't office hours. This is just like, hey, Yuga Labs, like pay us money, we'll do this for you. I completely agree with you because, and this is another analysis you could do. Like you could just look at all the people who hold NFTs and just do segmentation of like what like multi-dimensional NFTs they own, because like goblins is interesting, and I do own a goblin, but one of the things you look at goblins is like it has overlap with like not a lot of interesting things. And if you look at like goblins versus doodles, it's very different, the ownership. And so like, yeah, you have this like sort of like doodles is kind of like the cute segment, like the people that are just like own cute NFTs. And like goblins is like totally different, like because the artwork is not good at all, or like it's just completely different. So yeah, there's definitely like these clusters of NFT holders. And like when you think about like a new NFT that comes along, like who is going to be buying it? Like which cluster almost is going to be buying it? And like also like when these like very small NFTs like take off, they almost become their own cluster. Now like Goblin Town not as much. But like if Goblin Town was at like 10 ETH and a lot of people bought it for like 0.5 ETH, now you kind of have this like new segment, because it's like these people probably didn't have a lot of, you know, NFTs or ETH before, but now like all of a sudden this NFT took off, so they kind of become their own segment.
I think looking at that as well, if you're someone who believes that people actually bought goblins for the art or whatever, you might be able to look at like that list and see that mutant apes, so 10% of owners also own a mutant ape. So it's the similar art of like ugly art, which obviously some people actually do like. And also I think in NFTs, there's this really interesting like segmentation going on in terms of just price. I did a tweet kind of related to it recently, how like the 10 ETH price range is so dominated by doodles, Azukis, and CloneX that no one can actually get close to it. Or like as of now hasn't been able to get close to it, because once you get to that price range, like you create a decision on what you're going to buy. So are you going to buy whatever, like a goblin at 10 ETH, or are you going to buy Azuki, CloneX, whatever? And I think 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to buy one of those three, instead of that new collection, which is like hasn't based itself in the kind of space yet, and you don't have as much faith in. And then also for goblins, like you see when we were on that related collection, like Bored Apes are like right down the bottom. So I think there's this whole thing of like, if you have a high budget, there does seem to be a segmentation of in terms of like you just kind of stick away from the low cost ones. So even though you're like really wealthy, you own punks, Bored Apes, often it doesn't seem like they kind of enter into this realm of like 1, 2, 3, 4 ETH kind of collections. They just stick like far apart. They go for like art blocks. Yeah, Bored Ape, the Bored Ape ecosystem, I guess, as a whole. So I think there's like these big like price bands in NFTs, which I think would have like some really cool analysis going on. And obviously I'm biased, but like when you have like 1 ETH to 5 ETH kind of range, there isn't that much in terms of like strong communities, strong NFTs that have a strong base in this whole space at the moment. So if anyone ever goes on like NFT Paradise and filters by price, there's only a few that are really that good. And I'm obviously going to say penguins is one of them, but there is only like
Shocking.
penguins, but it would be like penguins, cool cats, and I couldn't really tell you another one. So if you've got like $900 to $5,000, like $1,000 to $5,000 of a budget, there isn't that much choice going on right now. And I think it's an interesting space as well because there's not many new entrants. And if there's no new entrants, there's less competition, less innovation. So everything is like very static at the moment because there's not enough movement in the whole space, I think. Yeah. So I think there's a lot to think about in terms of price bands in NFTs, which seems a bit like unexplored to me.
I agree, and especially like when you're buying something that's like, okay, am I gonna buy a YOLO bunny that's 13 days old?
Yeah,
like maybe not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Versus like, and also like the volume. I mean, like to me, volume is an interesting because like you want to buy something that like you can sell. That's like, you don't necessarily want to like just only limit your purchases to like above 500 ETH or like 300 ETH because we know that's not a good strategy. But like you need to sell it eventually. Like you need to look for like some sort of like exit liquidity. So trying to balance like all those things, like you may get to like 5 collections in reality.
Yeah. And I think people are so hesitant at the moment, like because the market in general, like we've got all these earning reports, people know that we might be in, well, we are in a recession if we're being real. There's like endless reasons to be kind of scared. And if you're scared but you're in the market for an NFT, what are you going to buy realistically? You're either going to buy something because you want to exit really quickly, so you think you can flip it. But if you're buying something because you actually like it or you want to hold it as an investment, I think it's really difficult at the moment to be a collection other than like punks, apes, obviously like penguins, but cool cats, anything that was here last year and stood out as like significant, Azukis, Clonex, Doodles. So there's like a basket of maybe like 10 collections really that anyone is buying, I think, unless they're just trying to flip. Or if there's like an amazing utility or something, such as like the Ledger collection that's been doing well over the last few days, like there's a physical element to it and all this. If you're buying strictly for the PFP or the art or whatever, I think it's really difficult at the moment as like a new collection or even a collection that's not well cemented into the space.
So this was like what I was trying to do earlier. So Punk coin, you can buy just like the Punk on SushiSwap. It just has like a bunch of punks in the vault. So then you can see here like the NFTX DAO treasury, they have 50 essentially punks. And so like there's all these different ways, like if you don't want to actually like go all in, or if you have $1,000, you could in theory just buy $1,000 of punk coin, or you could just buy $1,000 in NFTX because like if you thought like, oh, okay, I really like the platform and I'm getting this like sort of like treasury of punk token. So there's all different sorts of ways that you can kind of back into it instead of just going out and buying.
You said that you own NFTX. What's the benefit? Do you get like a share of the fees or something?
You get the ability to say, I own NFTX token when you go on office Nansen office hours. They are like thinking of doing some sort of staking. I haven't been in the Discord in like a couple weeks, but the last time I was there, they were talking about like maybe over the future doing some staking. But it's a good idea because I mean I like the idea because like you can just, it's the easiest way to like get exposure. You can also like, I think this is an unexplored strategy, like when I mean if you have the token, you can supply liquidity for it. Like when Goblins was going crazy, the APR you could get on just staking it in the SushiSwap pool was just insane. I haven't done any analytics around like just buying the token to stake it and getting the fees versus like what the price performance is versus that would be like a weak analysis. But I think there's some unexplored like farming hedging strategy here with like just LPing like very volatile NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
So
do we want to look, Alberto, at like some token stuff? Because I know we're supposed to be DeFi focused. We've done so much NFT stuff.
Yes, let's look at okay, so I have leftover alpha that I'm going to share now. This is a while ago, and so everyone in the world knows Lido DAO token. So this is a completely different conversation than what we've had. So back in like February, Andreessen Horowitz announced that they were taking like a very large stake in Lido DAO. They were buying like $75 million of the token. And if you came on to, I saw this and I didn't put 2 and 2 together until after the fact. So obviously like people know smart money in Nansen, and most of the time it's just, a lot of times you can see like Wintermute is just doing some like LPing, or they're just doing some different types of transactions. Maybe it's like an OTC deal or something like that. A lot of times I just ignore it, but there was something that really stood out because Wintermute over like this time period, they accumulated about like $10 million of Lido. And what is interesting about this is if you think about the Wintermute organization, like Wintermute obviously does a lot of different things. One, they have the CEO has a great Twitter handle, like the Hall of Fame. It's like, you know, Nansen Intern, him, and like, you know, other people. So they do a lot of different things. One is obviously they do market making. They have a venture capital firm, things like that. But they also do, I know I'm just speculating on this, I don't know this for a fact, but I can assume that they also do prime brokerage where they're holding tokens for other like venture capital firms or other institutions. And the reason why I say that is because on February 2nd, there was this transaction from Gnosis Safe Proxy to Wintermute, and then like another Gnosis Safe Proxy to Wintermute. And so at the time I was like, oh, this is probably just like them like market making for it. But if you just Google like Wintermute Lido, what's kind of funny is like the first thing that comes up was his governance proposal on like literally Feb 2nd. And if you just read through it, it's like, it's this person, Carvis, is just saying like, hey, Lido should have a market maker for their token because they're not listed on exchanges. And they like specifically mention Wintermute. Or even just an example of this is, and I think Hasu weighs in here, which is kind of funny. So that kind of tells you right there, actually, like that actually Wintermute is probably not market making for Lido, right? I mean, if someone is in the governance forum saying like, hey, we should hire a market maker, and then Wintermute gets 5 million, either like they are going to do it and just, I don't know, it's a pointless governance post, or they don't actually, like they're not actually, they're up to something else. So you can see like Wintermute accumulates like a lot of tokens in this time period. Then you can see like, okay, well, where are they like getting this Lido from? They're getting this from like this Gnosis Safe Proxy. So you can kind of like go a little further down and say like, okay, well, you know, who is this Gnosis Safe Proxy? So like on December 17th, 2020, this Gnosis Safe Proxy got 50 million Lido from the Lido DAO token manager. So this is like a raise. So Lido DAO raises money, they send it to this Gnosis Safe Proxy, whatever. So like from here, you can kind of infer that tokens from very early investors are like trading hands, right? Because they're going from this Gnosis Safe to Wintermute. So then, of course, like 2 weeks later, A16Z, March 3rd, 2022, remember, we're like at February 2nd, venture capital firm A16Z announces like they have invested 70 million in Lido. And I think it was a TechCrunch article, but they said that like A16Z got their tokens from previous investors. So there was like buried in like line, like literally like buried in like the last line of like this article that I obviously cannot find right now. It was like Andreessen Horowitz gets their tokens from previous investors.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can kind of infer here like Wintermute is the facilitator of this. Like maybe they're doing the OTC transactions, but they could also just be like just holding it for them, because like if you go to this this contract, like Wintermute still owns 6 million Lido. So like how can you use this going forward? Like, okay, well, this you could label as like Wintermute prime brokerage or something like that. And like every time they get a new token, you could say like, okay, well, you know, where did this token come from? Like who, what were they doing? Like maybe they're like holding it for somebody else. Like, I don't know. And so like you kind of get into this discussion of like what a label does, like very, very, very specifically, like what does a label do? And so like, obviously like, maybe we talked about this before, but like Wintermute trading is like a good label for this because obviously it is Wintermute. But like Wintermute prime brokerage or like Wintermute token beholder on half of venture capital firms is like a super valuable label. And obviously like when A16Z announced this, like the token was up like 30, 40%, something like that.
It's a good one to follow as well, like alongside A16Z kind of news, because if you know that they've used that Wintermute account before, you could add that to your watch list, which is what I'm going to do actually after this episode, because it's really hard to see what A16Z do, because like I don't think we do have some labels for them actually, but you don't see them very often. And like they announced that big gaming fund, so maybe they'll be using Wintermute for that as well, for investment into like gaming tokens. So that's actually like an amazing find, I swear. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so like if you think about like how are like we always hear like the institutions are coming. I've been hearing that for like literally since like 2014. But like they're not going to use like an externally owned address. Like if, you know, if Goldman Sachs comes in, they're not going to like use, like they're probably going to use like Alameda or like Wintermute, or like maybe they'll use like some other token brokerage firm that's been around for a while. So like if you kind of snoop around and see like, okay, you know, what like token firms are also doing prime brokerage, you can kind of uncover some things.
I imagine they actually use, I think that's, I don't know why I've never really thought about that. I imagine that's way more common than I'm actually thinking. Like because you don't see A16Z much, but they've got so much capital. So where is it? It's probably, I would guess it's somewhere like at Jump and Wintermute and Alameda. You'd think Jump actually, because they're like a bigger institution outside of crypto as well. So they'd probably have faith in them holding their tokens. And they hold a lot of tokens, which would then add up in terms of like they're probably just like custodial for other people as well. That's a really, really good point.
Yeah. I mean, just trying to like track down, like, I mean, they literally bought so much Lido, like $75 million worth of it. I think it came out to be like 45 million Lido tokens. Like it's like a crazy amount. I mean, so if you see like huge blocks of tokens just kind of like going from like address to addresses, something's up.
When was that? In February?
That was February, yeah. And it's still pretty relevant. I mean, oh, Kobe, that's funny. You still have like a lot of these, like obviously there's not as much raises going on now, but Andreessen still has a pretty large fund. So I'm sure you can be on the watch out for these things.
I was thinking, how much has that gone down in value though from February? Yeah. A lot, surely 50% at least, I guess.
yeah, that's not the best time, but
Yeah.
we all make mistakes, I guess. What else
Do we want to
talk
look
about?
at this?
Yeah.
That Arbitrum
Oh
finance
yeah,
thing.
yeah. I could just go on for hours. So
I think we can go slightly over. I had a call after this, but it's been cancelled, so we've got like 10 minutes.
oh, good. We have
extra.
like 20 hours. Is what you're telling me?
No.
Great. Okay. So finally, after just weeks of dry farming, no crops, no rain, Radiant Capital comes up. It's, I mean, it's just so funny, like how like 19 smart money people come in on this, but it's like the same. It's kind of it's like the same old story here. So if you like see, okay, new farm comes up, and you want to see, who is going into it, and like, okay, should I actually like farm this? The best way to do this is, you take the farming address, and then you say like, okay, well, what's the coin that you have to deposit into this address, so USDC. And now we can see, okay, like who are the top depositors for this Radiant Capital. And what I do is I typically just sort it by incoming, because I want to know, because if I go here to like tokens deposited net, that's just going to be like at the current moment how many people or who is the top farmer of this. But if I search by incoming, I can see like, okay, over time, like who has come in and out of the farm. And like keeping with the tradition that we've established, there's this address OXBA47 who has deposited $100 million in, and but has also pulled $100 million. So you kind of want to see like what is going on here. And it's pretty crazy because this account they're now since out of the farm. So they literally like came in for not that long. And they essentially probably just like farmed it to death with $45 million. I'm not gonna. I don't know who this person is. There are only so many people on the earth that have just 10,000 ETH readily at their disposal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at this address on ETH, and you can kind of see like, you kind of like start to like, when you just kind of whale watch, you like kind of start to like figure out patterns of like who, like, okay, well, it's coming from FTX. They made a swap of like 2,000 staked ETH like a few days ago, and then from FTX, they're depositing, $45 million. It's like, this is not me, and it's not my dog. It could be my dog. I don't know. I don't think it's him. He's not that high class farmer. But like, this can only be so many people, right, that are pulling $45 million at FTX. I'm not saying it's Alameda, but like, when you get to that much money, like you. But like, there's also an interesting cast of characters here, like Seafood Vision.
Yeah, he's super active in stuff recently. Maybe it was this. I saw his name come up in something else before. And, I put some tweet out about him, like, he has that Seafood token. And I know maybe I don't know enough about it, but I thought he put a funny reply. Like, to be fair to him, he does always reply and like give an answer, which I do like.
Okay.
He replied though, but it was a funny answer. It was like, so it's basically, why are you selling Seafood? And he was basically saying, "Oh, I'm not selling Seafood." Well, he is, but I'm adding the other token to the pool, which I thought is such a funny excuse. It's the same thing of like, "Oh, I'm just testing liquidity."
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a character for sure. But we could do a whole conversation about that. But I have to say, I did say, like, I do respect that he actually comes out and answers, because he could just go about doing kind of shady stuff and not saying anything. But yeah, have we got anything else on Radiant?
Yeah, I mean, like, what we were like talking about this first, like what I'm very interested in is like, one is like like how what addresses do cross chain. So like bringing it back to query, like you can just query like, Polygon, Arbitrum, Ethereum, and just get this like very full picture of like what an address is doing across every single chain, like very easily. I think that's an area where like people are starting to explore, but they haven't fully done it yet. And then like, what is the, like, of a farm, like what percent of it is like hot capital and is going to leave early? Because like here you see they're out in literally not even a day. So they come in 26 hours ago and it seems like they're totally out, 21 hours later ago.
Yeah, like one point on this actually, because you mentioned it, if you are ever trying to follow someone's kind of token movements, it is like quite important, especially when they're big wallet, to look on the other chains and like layer twos, because if you ever look at Tetranode's wallet by coincidence, and then you have a look at his activity on ETH, there's still quite a lot going on, but you miss out on the full picture if you don't have a look at Arbitrum, and he often uses Phantom from memory as well. So it's one of these wallets that you don't think much is going on until you look at the other chains, and then you see that they're doing a lot. Yeah,
I know exactly how to find him. This is sad. I was thinking like one time of spending like a whole office hours just on like the Curve convex ecosystem, because it's so complicated, and it's actually very surprising, because like you think that like the founders own a bleep load of Curve. Like if you just look at like the voting escrow, like who the top depositors are, I think one of the Michael, forget his name. I think it's like Patrine.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Seafood.
Oh no, sorry, Michael.
Oh no,
Egorov.
yeah.
Sorry, yeah, that was
Michael
bad.
Patrin is.
That was bad. Yes, sorry. I apologize to you, Michael. He's like, so he was the founder of Curve, but he's like one of the top depositors into the like the Curve locking tool, and so like the Curve founders own like a lot of Curve. I'm not saying this is bad or good. It's just kind of, I mean, it makes sense. Like the founders should own the token, right? It's just interesting that like 4-year vesting, Curve founders 27%. Curve founder, like, but anyway, so here's Tetranode. Do I get extra credit because I can find Tetranode? Like,
I think you can find him on like other tokens like JPEG and stuff. Obviously, he had a lot of Ohm. Is he back on Twitter? No, I know he left Twitter for a bit.
I saw someone. I think he is actually.
His name. Look at the labels; they make me laugh.
Yeah,
Penniless Wassy and I dump on you. But yeah, he's quite active on Arbitrum and Phantom and everything.
Yeah, he's probably got like tokens locked somewhere.
Yeah, loads of tokens you've never heard of as well. If you ever have a look,
but yeah, like you can do. Oh yeah, actually he is like. I mean, his activity is waning, but this is just on ETH. But yeah, interesting. But yeah, like the Curve ecosystem is really like, if you want to get like a PhD in crypto, just trying to figure out like who owns Curve and like who owns Convex is like legitimately unbelievably complicated to like trace through the because there's obviously like 10 different types of like, you know, CVXCRV, like YCVX. It's like, you know, you get the acronyms are crazy, but what is interesting, and I think we've joked about this before, is like funds don't even know, like they made so many investments over the years that they like don't even know like what they have anymore. And if you just go through like who has deposited like to like these contracts, like you can see just like Tetranode is like everywhere. Like he's depositive Curve into convex locking. He's depositive Curve into like the Curve staking, but he also is like depositive CVX CRV to like the Curve pool. And like, if you want to hire me just to like track down all your Curve investments, so just like let me know. but it's like, it's truly like astonishing, like how like it's just everywhere. Like, and it's pretty interesting. Like, okay, you have like Redacted Cartel. They're like one of the top depositors of Curve into convex.
He could definitely afford to hire you for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen his wallet. Like incoming, I think is like $4.5 billion or something like that. Like, and that's his main wallet that everyone can see. So I imagine he's got a lot of money, or did have a lot of money. I don't know about that anymore.
Yeah, that's true. And I bet, like, if we just look at the LPing of CVX CRV, he'll probably come up there too. But then, like, if you just think about, like, you know, what are all these things? And I think it's kind of like going back to like middle school of like, or not middle school, like high school math, where it's like, oh, do a theorem and like prove that, like, you know, a triangle is a triangle. Like, you know, like it's completely pointless unless you want to be an engineer. But like, if you truly want to understand math and like what is the math behind, like how does math work, that's like a great thing to do. Like if you truly want to understand like how the blockchain works and like how all these things come together, like you can do that, and then you can go through Nansen and like to see like, okay, who's depositing here, like when this gets deposited into this contract, like what do you get back? And like it takes a while, but, and I don't know if it's actually useful, but if you want to impress your friend, like, okay, again, like Tetranode comes up. This is the like the CVX CRV pool. And there's another 2 million here, right? Like it's crazy. I did this once for like 6 hours.
I think we could do like a whole Curve kind of section on some episode.
And just like, okay, like what are these things? Like, and then like you can lock convex and like, yeah.
Yeah, we should get you on to maybe have a look at that. Maybe Andrew knows. I'm thinking who else could be good for Curve stuff. But yeah, I'll come back to that. I think let's end it there.
Yeah.
Because we've gone over. I think we could go on for like way too long otherwise. So yeah, thank you both for joining. Really, really good. Thank you everyone in the chat for listening, or everyone, if you're not in the chat, for listening as well. So yeah, we hope you've enjoyed as well. If you have, like it, share it with anyone that you know. Subscribe, turn your notifications on. There's links below if you want to sign up to Nansen Lite for free. If you want to trial Nansen Standard, you can also do that for only $9, which is a bargain. So yeah, we've got that link below. And yeah,
how do we learn more about Query?
Yeah, how do you learn about Query, Jason?
Oh, we'll have our website launching very soon, and or you can always email us at hello@nansen.ai, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Perfect. Yeah, or you can DM the main account, anything like that. DM the intern account if you want to. So yeah, subscribe, and we will see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.
See you.